So now that my new book Surveyor is finally out and it's being delivered, people are receiving their copies now, I wanted to take some time just to share the entire book from start to finish with all of you. Whether you haven't bought a copy of the book or you don't plan on buying a copy of the book, this way you can at least see the finished product from start to finish, and I can kind of share a little bit about the design process, the sequencing, putting certain photos together, just kind of where some of these choices came from. So I'm going to share that with all of you in this video. Big thanks to KEH Camera for sponsoring this video. They've been a huge part of this whole entire project and helping me make it happen. So big shout out to them. I'll tell you more about them in a bit, but let's go ahead and take a look at Surveyor together. To see it in its finished state like this in front of me and I can actually hold it and show it to people, it still feels surreal. The size of the book feels good. I wanted to have it just slightly bigger than Friend of Mine. Friend of Mine was a little bit more narrow, maybe slightly shorter, but mixing in sort of a detail shot of the state seal of Ohio and just the landscape that's shown in the seal, trying to incorporate that amongst the actual landscape photos in the book. I didn't know how it would come across. I think it was actually Darren, the book designer that I worked with, which she was incredible, Darren Grassman. I believe it was her that suggested this being a good sort of opening shot into the book, kind of giving you like a little window into what the rest of the book was going to be like. So after that, then we have the actual title page itself, and then the full book sequence really starts. The time of day and the changing of the time of day isn't really a theme or anything that plays into the photos. For whatever reason, though, I really wanted the opening shot to just feel bright. And this was like middle of the day, bright skies, and I wanted just something like a big, open, bright kind of landscape to open things up. I don't know why that is, but from the moment I started shooting for this and trying to imagine it, I just pictured things opening up just big and bright, rather than kind of easing into that. And a lot of the ideas of a map and following the map, following the landscape, the idea of surveying, I really liked little things that kind of reminded me of that. And so this shot here of the tree shadow throughout this field, all of the tree branches spread out across the field and the lines that they were making, when I saw this right here on this log, all of these little marks, it reminded me a lot of, what a map would look like, and my mind immediately went back to this photo I had shot earlier in the year. Size-wise and the way it's laid out, Darren, she was the designer, and she basically gave me two different options of putting the book together. She said we can do sort of a straightforward approach, like what I did with Friend of Mine, where every photo, same size, same kind of placement on the page. And we could do a second option, which is a little bit more playful and fun with the different sizes and just mixing it up. And that was the direction I really wanted to go in. The size of this kind of key portion of the photo, mirroring roughly the size over here, just the way it's placed together, I'm really happy with how this spread came out. One thing that was pointed out to me by my good friend Aaron Harden, he played a big role in helping me sequence things and just go through and edit and figure out what was worth keeping, what added to the book, what took away from it. One thing that Aaron pointed out was the amount of circular kind of shapes, things that I was drawn to at the time, and you could probably hear my son. He noticed I was shooting through a lot of things, like shooting through this little barbed wire loop right here, shooting through these trees into the water, shooting through this scene right here, looking out into the field in the distance. And that wasn't something that I necessarily was conscious of as I was shooting. It was something that Aaron just saw when I sent him all of the photos I had made. He noticed that and it really stood out to me. And I don't know if it was just this matter of like trying to see deeper, trying to see through everything that I've already seen so many times and the sort of surroundings that I'm used to. But there was a lot of just like really still, at times meditative kind of photos I was making that I wasn't really used to. The cover photo, just made on a little back road near my old house that I used to drive down all of the time. And just the sign of life, the bullet holes there in the sign. I found myself shooting a lot of things that showed a sign of life, showed that there was something that had happened before that was by man, not just by nature. Nice, quiet landscapes that look just like home. This was made maybe 1/8 of a mile from where that sign with all the bullet holes is. It's on the same road. And then when you turn the page, this is also right there. Down here at this little intersection where this road ends, that's where this photo is made, and the sign with all the bullet holes is basically right here behind where I'm standing. This was also made on that same road. These were made at the time as we were about to move from my childhood home. These were roads and things that I would drive up and down all of the time. As soon as I got into photography, as soon as I was old enough to drive, it's the places I would frequent all of the time with my camera, and I was kind of revisiting a lot of those steps early on. This is one of my favorites of the book. It seems to be one that a lot of people are drawn to, at least one of the favorites that people always bring up. I just loved the way this was actually a smashed pumpkin someone had left there, but I liked the way it looked like it was the bark, and we kind of revisit that one here in just a bit. Again, a lot of circular kind of shapes. I noticed these dirt tracks. Someone did a burnout right here next to these old train tracks. And then for whatever reason, off in the distance here, we also have a little car seat someone dumped. The idea of doing a burnout, leaving the car seat, maybe a little bit of grief in that one, I would say. And this photo was actually made just a few feet away from these tracks, so these were both shot in the same location. I just enjoyed the way the puddle kind of mirrored all of these tracks here in the mud. Again, more signs of life, just kind of shooting these tracks here after a heavy rain. Another thing I never really thought I would want to do is have the photo going across the gutter right here and onto the second page. For whatever reason, I liked the way these looked when Darren sent me these samples of the draft. Some scenes, especially like this one here, it's a big open scene, and I like the idea of just bringing that forward and bringing the viewer a little bit further into a bigger kind of wide open space. Sometimes the gutter is like really deep and you lose a lot of information in there, but I'm happy with how these printed. It feels like you still get everything. Another one that people often bring up, and this is one of my personal favorites as well, this was just a t-shirt being used. It's a red t-shirt being used to gate off this county access road. I would see this from a distance. I would drive by it all of the time, and finally one day I stopped and shot some photos. Then I developed the film months later, realized that basically none of them were sharp enough. All of the focus was just ever so slightly off. So I went back, reshot photos there, and was able to kind of compose things a little bit better from what I had originally shot. The first day I went, the light was amazing. This time it was just flat and dead. This scan really took some extra work to get the contrast right to make it really show up the way I wanted it to. Light was better the first day, but overall the photos were better on this roll, and now it's no longer there, so this is what we've got. But I liked it. I liked the shape of the shirt and the sleeves kind of being twisted and pulled tight. Just that tension there in the rope, that's what really drew me to it. And now just a little kind of nod to the time passing. This is the same log that we saw earlier, just we went from winter to summer. It was about a year and a half of making photos for this book, so I wanted to include something in there, and as I drove by this one day, I thought that would work perfectly. And again, a lot of driving, a lot of just kind of wandering around, and seeing all of the different tar lines and things in the road, the intersecting lines with all of the wires there, trying to, again, kind of play into that idea of a map and different routes you can go. This photo I wasn't sure about, and to be honest, I don't know to this day how I feel about it. The idea of kind of heavy-handing with the arrow and the word discover kind of leading in, but this one almost didn't make the cut. It also says discovery. It doesn't say discover. I tried my best to kind of shoot and use the out of focus elements right here of these weeds to cover up the Y as best as I could. I don't know, maybe you can still read that it says discovery. Another one kind of leading in towards the river, kind of shooting through this open space here, and then this one shooting through from that little wooded area out into the river and seeing the bridge off in the distance. Carlisle Hill, kind of overlooking town here. Composition-wise, this one I wasn't sure how well it would come across. I liked the idea of this line kind of leading you in, but then going off the page on this route, as opposed to going down into really like the heart of town, trying to kind of go off a little bit and not necessarily the same route. This one I really liked, this overgrown telephone wire here with all of the shapes of little hearts there, kind of over the city. An old baseball backstop that is now no longer there. Hadn't been used in a long time. They would always keep the grass mowed and everything, but just a random backstop out in the middle of this field. Lots of wandering, but then eventually kind of making our way into town here. Another personal favorite for me, really just because all of the lines make me happy. There's not much else to this photo other than the fact that all of the different intersecting lines and just the shades of all of these different shapes that we have. The light, composition-wise, this one just felt right to me. Open road with the train passing, just a slightly slow shutter. These photos sort of felt like a little nod to, a work in progress. The town being a work in progress, a lot of changes happening. This building here, they were inside doing a lot of painting. You can see the ladder there leaning on the inside. A bonus of the flag there. You can infer whatever you want to infer. The use of a flag can be it can bring out a very specific emotion or thought, I guess. This, to me, was more of just a nod to, small town America. And this building having this kind of old sketch of the building when it was first put up. The paper itself being so weathered and worn, laying in this window here, and then the state of the building as it is today. Always a work in progress. Again, sort of seeing some of the buildings that have been renovated and updated in the background here in the reflection of this window, but I was shooting into an older building that has sat empty for many years and needs a lot of work. And the way all of these little kind of divots in the wall, it reminded me a lot of the cover photo of the bullet holes in the sign. And then the final shot of the book, or at least of the sequence here, this kind of shot just into the light way down this alley. There's no real clear end or destination in the distance. It's just kind of trailing off into the light. And that felt like a pretty accurate way of sharing how I felt as I went and, made photos and tried to find new places and looking essentially at nothing or looking for nothing in particular, just a lot of wandering and just kind of letting myself find my way. And it felt like a good way to kind of end the entire sequence here. Here's the afterword, giving a little bit more context into myself, the time of making these photos, what Chillicothe means to me, etc. I didn't want to put all of this information at the beginning of the book. I wanted to just let people flip through the book from start to finish without any context. I didn't want to try to steer anybody in a certain direction. I want to let people feel and see what they naturally feel and see. But then having this afterwards, giving context to some of the things throughout the book, hoping that that would fill in any blanks or just bring a different perspective to the photos. So that's why I wanted to include that at the end of the book. And then the back here, this is just where I give my, sort of acknowledgements. All of these people were instrumental in helping me get this book together. Kevin O'Mara, Garrett Remy, Nathan Hirschler, Josh Cheney, Ben Corcoran, Aaron Harden, Willem Verbeek, Devin Blaskovich, all of these guys were extremely helpful when it came time to just sharing the work, getting feedback. They were all a huge help in that process of me just figuring out what was worth sharing in the book and what wasn't. Kayla Smith and KEH Camera helping me get this thing off the ground by sponsoring the YouTube videos about the book. That entire project, I wouldn't have been able to give this book the time without their support. Kyle Depew and Brooklyn Film Camera having my show in Brooklyn. Tyler Woodford helping me with the frames. Jules Stewart for the Jackson show that I did with the work from Surveyor. And of course, my family, believing in me, trusting in me to make something like this and take on self-publishing. It's a huge, huge task, and their support and just trust in me would not be able to do it without them. And then, of course, the credits, copyrights, the ISBN number, designed by Darren Grassman. Again, Darren did an incredible job with this. I'm so glad I worked with her. And then also, as a little bonus closing photo, this is a nod to friend of mine. This was basically the same vantage point as the opening shot or the pre-title shot in Friend of Mine. So a nice little callback there. Again, massive shout out to KEH Camera for their support on this project and of course sponsoring this video as well. They've been in business for over 40 years buying and selling used photography gear. I've been buying from them myself long before I ever even had a YouTube channel. It's the best place to shop for used gear. Everything is thoroughly graded and tested before it's up on the website, and it's being updated every single day. Thousands of items, their inventory is massive. And you can shop with peace of mind. They have a free 180-day warranty included on thousands of items and a 21-day return policy if you happen to change your mind, as sometimes us photographers do. Whether you're buying or selling your gear with KEH, make sure you use the links and codes down below. It'll save you some money or get a bonus on your quote, and using these links also goes a long way at supporting this channel at no extra cost to you. I hope you all enjoyed this video though. I hope it was helpful in some way. I obviously would love if you enjoy the book, but more than anything, I wanted to make this video specifically for anyone else who might be in the process of putting things together to make a zine, a book. There are so many different directions you can go and ways you can do things, a lot of choices to make. So hopefully just sharing where my head was at and how I made some of those choices, hopefully it was helpful for you. If you have any questions or thoughts of your own, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. But that's it for this video. So thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.